via SPAC. Jim, you talk about consumer risks. JP Morgan desk today says maybe we're in a, quote, virtuous circle where consumer demand means corporate margins are solid, which means layoffs are less likely, which means employment's good and the consumer's solid.
I think that was the view from five, 6 weeks ago, and that things changed a bit. I think that the backup in rates actually had more of an impact than I thought. The home builders would agree with me. The backup in rates did cause some people to misjudge and hold back on things. I mean, if you look at Ferrari, which had a good quarter, but they talked about how they had this model change, whatever, but they talked about normalizing. This whole notion of normalizing. The people realize, wait a second, we've gone too high. We've been meeting demand, and now we think that the Fed's going to raise, maybe not cut. I know this was a theme that happened in the month of April, and that is Ferrari's had a much worse day yesterday. So I think that's a narrative that happened before April, and I would have believed in that, but I don't think it's as virtuous now. That's not what you get when you have Nucor coming down, when you have steel coming down. It's not what you get when you have airline prices coming down. It's not what you get when you have
and the employment number coming down.
Yeah, and I think that's look. If we get to 4. Then I think Jay has the cover to be able to cut, and then you have a pretty, that's the virtuous circle. The virtuous circle is that the economy slows down for some, not others, and you have to pick which ones are good. And at the same time, you have to also buy Pfizer and Merck, because Pfizer's turning, the Seagen acquisition's apparently going to be good, David, and Merck, all the different things that Rob Davis bought are working. So you have to have this kind of barbell. You have to have both.
The other dynamic right now, Jim, is what some argue is geopolitical risk coming out of the market, where people think neither Israel nor Iran have the stomach for escalation. We got WTI in correction mode now, off of 85 down to 76.
I'm glad you mentioned WTI because this is the real demand level. Now remember, we have had an appreciable decline in oil being pumped in the Permian in the last 4 weeks. So you're seeing a number that would have gone the other way if we had any tension, maybe high. Because, Dave, we may not even do 13 million a day. And that has to do with some piping inefficiency, according to Rusty Brazil, is my guy down there.
Right.
So you've got a situation where oil, we just don't know what's going on in Russia.
Well, we know India and China is where much of that oil, if not almost all of it, is ending up.
And copper hasn't come down at all, but copper's also data center, so it has a second wind at its back. I'm just saying that oil is a brown shoe. Remember, I'm using this term.
Who gives a good oil prognostication? I feel like
Brazil.
Really, because I feel like we get endless people who come on and they're almost always wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, thank you for confirming that.
That's true. I mean, I was talking.
Wasn't it a couple weeks ago we were going to go to 100? I thought that's where we were headed.
For 19 years, I write the Mad Money with my nephew, Cliff Mason. And we're kicking around the notion of tenured analysts. It doesn't matter. They can say whatever they want. They're tenured.
Examples?
Well, I don't want to single out anybody.
Oh, okay.
That would be mean. Like mention like a guy like Wilson. What do you think? I'm some sort of hypocritically mean person?
Yep.
I'm not like that. I used to be. David remembers when I used to be.
Oh, yeah, this is the nicer, kinder, gentler you.
You bet it is.
Yeah,
God,
for sure.
Yeah, Mr. Starbucks can attest to that.
Yeah, of course. Luxman is definitely feeling that. He's like, really glad I didn't get the old Jim.
He only threw a pen at me, not a phone.
The forecast of the forecast.
And the forecast called for pain.
By the way, we haven't.
Alto's down. I had him on last night. I thought he was great in the cash. The stock's down. There was absolutely nothing wrong. Stock's down big. I mean, stocks are going down.
Who was on yesterday? What? Who are you talking about?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm looking at stocks that are down big where there's nothing.
Although you also had Steve Huffman on. Interesting quote out of Reddit.
My. Now, that's just a great story. And you have an acceleration of Reddit users. You have people who are discovering this as a way to be able to, what he calls, not age out. I mean, if you look at Snap, which had a good quarter, the people who look at Snap, they age out. Eventually, you don't want to continue to, you don't want to stick with them. But Reddit has a core group of people that start between 18 and 25, and they just gain in terms of the adherence of Reddit. So I thought that's a terrific story. And if we weren't in kind of like a downbeat mode, I would say Reddit would be up 6 or 7 as it was last night.
Well, it's not 14% anymore as we just put something up, but it is still having a nice morning.
It's a downbeat day. I mean, no one's listening to me on this brown shoot thing, but
I don't agree. People are listening to you. That's not true. Yeah, they are.
The Disney call.
Uber's down 9%. Brown shoots? I don't know. Or is it just...
And it's just that's not. It's just not what I'm seeing.
Yep.
I'm seeing a lot of companies seeing a tick down where they didn't expect to, and a lot of it had to do with the backup in rates. And the backup in rates was something that may have turned out to be a jawboning by Jay, where he didn't have to raise rates. All he had to do was say, look, I don't know what we're going to do, and then send out some of those, the Babbitts, the Sinclair Lewis Babbitts, to talk about how maybe we should be raising rates. The Babbitts, the Rotary guys, actually I like Rotary, but Babbitt,
Right.
They kind of came out and they did their job. They talked up, they had rates go up because they said things like, well, maybe what are you reading that's so interesting that you're not paying attention to me?
I'm reading the Arista Networks call.
That was that was 2 blocks ago.
No, we didn't actually get to it, if you recall. We didn't really even show
In Jim's
the stock
mind, we got
price.
to it.
Yes, in
Yeah.
Jim's mind. He thought of it, but he
Yeah.
didn't say it. See, the key, Jim, is actually saying the words. Not that you don't say your fair share. Explain why the two of us, at least, are taken with it a little bit. What I was reading, Jim, were comments
memorized the call. You don't have to
from the CEO, who I think is going to be on Mad Money tomorrow.
Trying to make that work.
Oh, you're trying?
No,
Okay.
no, I think I got it.
Okay, good.
A lot of my money.
Talking about today, they deliver into the data center. They connect everything in there, help connect things in the data center.
Ethernet.
And there was a question on the call.
InfiniBand is the way.
InfiniBand is NVIDIA's.
That's NVIDIA.
Right.
But people like Ethernet. They like JStream.
And the question on the call was, is there going to be a pause while everybody waits for Blackwell? And the answer was, we're not seeing a pause.
Right.
I don't think anybody's going to wait for Blackwell necessarily in 24 because they're still bringing up their GPU clusters.
Right.
That is the clusters. Optimizations on the GPU for collective communication. And on from there, all of which is to say, again, quoting the CEO, a good scale-out network has to be built no matter whether you're connecting to today's GPUs or to future Blackwells.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that because the wrap, just so we know, on the coming quarter, the May 22nd quarter, for the big dog, for NVIDIA, is that what will happen is that they will have a transition, not unlike, say,
So you'll pause right now.
And there is no pause. And Jensen has said over and over again, there's no pause because everybody will take whatever they have.
Right.
They'll take whatever they can because it's so much superior to everything else.
And they're filling up, and they're building data centers anyway, and you got other ones that were built that need to be filled up now. You can't wait.
You gotcha.
Yeah.
Man, you are so on since you came back from California. You are on.
I'm on.
He's on.
I'm all over this AI thing, and I'm here to tell you, be very careful.
Don't go existential. He insists.
Be very...
Always throwing in something.
I can't help it. Somebody's got to. And by the way, if you voice your fears, perhaps they will not be realized.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
kind
my
of like
hope.
what J-Pal did with the long range.